Okay, welcome to the first screencast for Chapter 6. Chapter 6 concerns three main topics: geological processes. Geo, remember, means Earth. So we're going to look at the natural changes to the Earth, both deep inside the Earth and on Earth's surfaces. Then we'll take a look at soils, how soils are formed, how long it takes and what makes up the soil, and soil attributes or characteristics, and whether those characteristics help us to use the soil for activities such as growing crops. And then last, we will look at minerals. Minerals are materials in the earth, both at the surface and below the surface, that are useful to humans, and so we extract them, refine them, and then use them. And the process of extracting, refining, and using these minerals can have serious consequences to the environment, and it can have serious consequences to human health as well. So first, let's look at the objectives, what students will learn and be able to describe in this chapter. First, students will be able to describe the formation of Earth and the distribution of critical elements on Earth. So Earth, in brief, was formed 4.6 billion years ago from the consolidation of cosmic dust. And as it formed, the presence of heavier elements such as lead and nickel caused them to sink toward the center of the Earth, toward the core of the Earth. And other elements were distributed around the Earth, but they aren't distributed equally. Some of them might be below what is now ocean crust. Some of them may be more found in higher quantities or higher density in different locations, including different countries. And that distribution or uneven distribution of critical elements can lead to socio and economic issues, which we'll look at. Okay, second, students should be able to describe the theory of plate tectonics and discuss its importance in environmental science. So the theory of plate tectonics says that the Earth's crust and upper mantle is broken into seven large plates and a number of smaller plates, and these plates are in constant motion. So if you picture a dinner plate that was shattered and then put back together, or not really put back together, but lined up like puzzle pieces, some of the plates are moving toward one another and interacting in that way, pushing against one another. Some of the plates are separating or moving away from one another, and some are sliding past one another. And all of this activity can lead to various things, including earthquakes. So we'll discuss the theory of plate tectonics and relate it to environmental science as well. Third, and this part is going to be a little bit brief, but students will be able to describe the rock cycle and its importance in environmental science. So briefly, the rock cycle isn't a cycle at all, but it is the constant or dynamic changing of the Earth. And there are three main types of rock, but any type of rock can turn into any other group of rocks through various processes such as temperature and pressure. So we'll take a look at the rock cycle, we'll take a look at the main classifications of rocks, and describe how this makes a difference in environmental science. Fourth, students will be able to describe soil formation and soil attributes. Soils form over long periods of time, beginning from barren rock to gradually getting lichen and mosses, for example, and then getting deeper and deeper soil over long periods of time. And as the soil forms, it becomes more mature, is what we call it, and soil gains certain characteristics or attributes that we will look at, because those attributes determine how productive that soil may be. So for example, is that good soil for agriculture, for growing crops? And how do we maintain the soil so that it stays good soil if it is good soil? And last, students will be able to understand how minerals are extracted from the earth through a process called mining, and the impacts of mining on human health and the environment. So mining, again, it's extracting minerals from the earth. It may be at the earth's surface, it may be deep below. Once minerals are extracted, they usually need to be refined and then used. And all of these things can greatly affect the environment and human health. So we'll begin here with the case study for this chapter, which you should read through on your own. But I want to just tell you briefly about it and discuss some take-home messages. So this case study is about the pros and cons of hybrid electric or all-electric vehicles. So obviously a pro for a hybrid electric or all-electric vehicle is that it uses less or no fossil fuels. And that's certainly important as we move into a time when the climate is changing and we want to stop putting CO2 into that atmosphere, because that will only increase the heat up and the other changes. Now, one of the trade-offs, though, is that these vehicles require batteries, and these batteries require certain metals known as rare earth metals, rare earth elements is the proper term, REE. So rare earth elements may actually be abundant, but in most places they'd be found only in low concentration, or maybe they're under the ocean floor where you can't really extract them. But they are present in some places, but there's a limited number that we can actually access. So that's a con. Specifically, two rare earth elements are lithium and lanthanum that are used in the batteries. So that's one problem, that these particular elements are rare. In this case, one country, China, has or is known to have discovered about 97% of the rare earth elements that are now being mined. So, of course, that leads to more mining taking place on their soil, which may be a negative. It can also be a positive economic boost for them if we in the United States need to buy these rare earth elements from another country. So they may be scarce, they may not be evenly distributed on Earth, and mining them has consequences, as does refining them. So in the case of the rare earth elements that we just talked about, they are found mixed with salts, and the separation of these rare earth elements from the salts leads for a more concentrated salt set-aside burden, which is something that can be damaging to plants as they're in the form of runoff and so forth. Okay, let's see. Last, the extraction of rare earth elements also often involves the use of acids, which you'll see later is true of gold as well. So acids are used to dissolve the rare earth elements and extract it from the rock. The acids then can contaminate drinking water supplies, either in terms of an aquifer underneath or through runoff. And so that is an issue as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video or the screencast at this point, and next we will talk about the formation of the Earth and the layers of the Earth.